Hi everyone, this is Kevin from MemSQL, and thanks for joining today's webcast on MemSQL 5, and we'll be providing a demo as well. Today's webcast will be led by Gary Orenstein, who's the Chief Marketing Officer at MemSQL, and we'll also be joined by Stephen Kamenia, who is Product Manager here at MemSQL, who will be going through the demo. If you do have any questions during the webcast, please enter them through the GoToWebinar question panel, and we'll address them in the last 15 minutes or so of the webcast. We are recording today, and we'll send up with a recording following up through an email within 24 to 48 hours. So with that, I'll hand it over to Gary to kick it off.
Great. Thanks, Kevin, and thanks everyone for joining us to cover some of the details about MemSQL 5. MemSQL 5 was announced with general availability just a few weeks ago at the Strata San Jose conference, Strata and Hadoop World. And some of the key features are a big focus on real-time analytics. We've achieved phenomenal analytics performance across transactional, analytical, and hybrid workloads in this MemSQL release. We've also done a lot of work with business intelligence partners such as Tableau and Zoom Data and Looker to enable real-time business intelligence. Some new things with Streamliner, our integrated version of Apache Spark focused on streaming, as well as a complete re-architecture for improved performance on MemSQL code generation. So those are a few of the highlights that we'll dig into more during the course of the next few minutes. You know, from a big picture perspective, we see all of this effort across our customers and ourselves as crossing the real-time divide and the race to the digital enterprise. We see this manifest itself individually with the on-demand economy and the world of applications on our phone, the emergence of the Internet of Things and connecting both the offline and the online worlds, and a ubiquitous drive to real-time analytics. Even with all of these new things taking place, the lingering challenges remain the same. Too often people have to wait for data to load. Too often people have to wait for lengthy query responses. And too often there's a lack of concurrency, meaning tools don't have the ability to do more things, more than one thing at a time. And that's very, needed in today's real-time world. So we like to talk about the convergence of these two worlds, specifically the database and the data warehouse worlds converging to help eliminate ETL. In this case, the type of workloads we're discussing are those where we're doing analytics on a changing data set and detecting to changes as they happen, using the power of in-memory to drive real-time analytics, and reducing the need for these separate environments. So this is shortening the time to value for new data, including data that comes in via streaming mechanisms or by implementing the Lambda architecture, or by applications that are just writing to a data store like MemSQL, a database like MemSQL, and deriving analytics in real time. Architecturally, some of the critical elements of the MemSQL platform are first and foremost scalable SQL. And we do that across multiple modes, both the transactional mode, OLTP, as well as the analytical mode, OLAP, as well as a hybrid mode. This is something Gartner refers to as hybrid transaction analytical processing, or HTAP. But in addition, we also support multiple models. So beyond full transactional ANSI SQL, you can have models that are key value or document and JSON based or geospatial based, all within a single database platform. On the media side, MemSQL spans both memory and solid state, as well as traditional disk drives, so that you can store data in the most appropriate manner for the workload at hand. We do that with a distributed system that allows our customers to scale out on industry standard hardware, saving millions of dollars compared to expensive proprietary database appliances. And finally, MemSQL is flexible in that you can deploy it both in your own data center or in the cloud. And that could be anything from Amazon to Azure to Google to DigitalOcean and others. MemSQL 5 is a platform for real-time analytics. I've discussed a little bit about the analytics performance and the business intelligence performance and the deployment. So we'll dig into that in a little bit more detail. Some of the technical highlights. On the performance side, we've developed and implemented an entirely new code compilation architecture. MemSQL has always compiled queries, so that they can run at blazing speeds after the first compilation. This new code architecture shortens the time dramatically for that first compilation and maintains the fast performance for ongoing queries. This helps when you're doing interactive exploration, for example, adjusting the slider on your Tableau dashboard, where every time you move that slider, you're generating a new query. We've also done optimizations for the enhancements for our optimizer, as well as column store query execution, all in sum leading to far greater performance in MemSQL 5 than we've had before. Foundational features, including increasing our SQL surface area, things like window functions, as well as adding in security capabilities like PAM-based authentication, pluggable access module, as well as adding some things on the statistics side to make the user experience more simple for our end users. Finally, on Streamliner and usability, we've added the ability to have in-browser programmability of pipelines, as well as importing from data sources like HDFS, S3, and MySQL natively. A little bit more on the code generation and the work that we did here at MemSQL. First, on the right-hand side, you can see that code generation as a concept, the first time a query is executed, it goes through the code gen path. The second time, it can go directly by using that plan cache to provide the compiled query. On the left-hand side of the screen, you can see that in our prior code generation, we were using parts of C++ and GCC in order to achieve that compilation. We've shifted and introduced a new MemSQL bytecode, as well as an underlying compiling engine using LLVM, a modern compiling engine widely used inside the ecosystems of companies like Apple and others. Long story short, this new code generation is making MemSQL, particularly for interactive exploratory queries, faster than ever. People often ask us, where should I deploy MemSQL, and where are the use cases where I will see the most value? And there are generally three that we see most frequently across our customer base. The first is helping them convert high-end database appliance workloads. And this is where we're dealing with a high transaction volume and also real-time analytics, but massive cost savings that can come from moving from these expensive proprietary high-end scale-up appliances to lower-cost industry-standard hardware. And that's a traditional high-end database transactional workload. The second area is refreshing the data warehouse with live data. And this involves simultaneously loading data, but also executing low-latency queries. MemSQL and our Streamliner capabilities also allow you to stream directly into both our in-memory row store or our disk-based column store. And finally, the third area is real-time data pipelines and bringing analytics to real-time data pipelines across both the freshest and the historical data. So with MemSQL, you can deploy a complete Lambda architecture that has a speed layer, a serving layer, and a batch layer using our column store capabilities. Although the column store operates in real time, you get the ability to store large historical data, essentially replacing what would be needed in a do-it-yourself Lambda architecture. The real-time processing work that MemSQL does with our customers typically involves pipelines that go from Apache Kafka to Apache Spark to MemSQL, delivering an end-to-end experience in that pipeline less than 1 second and immediately access to the real-time analytics. I touched base briefly on some of the things happening with our BI partners, such as Tableau and Zoom Data and Looker and others. With MemSQL, we really see the opportunity to take BI real time. There is an opportunity to bring live data to these data dashboards, for there to be continuous updates, and for them to constantly query the database as opposed to having to rely on cached data. Deployment choices are also critical for MemSQL customers, and we believe in a hybrid strategy that involves being able to deploy in your own data center and being able to deploy on multiple clouds. This helps provide for cloud independence, which is not always available with some of the database or analytical tools that are delivered from the cloud providers themselves. This also allows to design architectures for high availability, disaster recovery, and of course, I mentioned cloud independence. I want to jump into now some of the architectural detail that we're seeing with Streamliner, which is what our customers are using to create real-time data pipelines and build real-time applications. In this case, you can see real-time inputs, which might come from applications, might come from mobile devices, sensors, other types of reporting mechanisms, feeding through Kafka as a real-time message queue, and then into Streamliner, where we simplify the ETL process, or extract, transform, and load, so the data can go directly into MemSQL and then be immediately queried with real-time analytics. From a big picture perspective, this, in our opinion, is the path to success in the digital economy. The first step is to build real-time dashboards. The second step is to carry that further with machine learning and predictive applications. And we see this across a range of industries, from finance and energy and retail to manufacturing, communications, transportation, and more. I'll wrap up with just a few examples of what we're seeing in the field before we get to the demonstration. So in finance, we have customers who are using MemSQL to do real-time trading analytics and to create risk dashboards across the entire base of corporate assets, real-time risk analysis. They're able to ingest real-time trade data. They're also able to enable thousands of analysts to query real-time trades. On the analytics side, the risk profiles are aggregating data from the entirety of the organization and providing a real-time view of what's happening at any moment in time. Customers use MemSQL for Internet of Things type applications. We have companies like Comcast and Samsung that are gathering data from their devices to optimize with real-time analytics and real-time intelligence to create better programming environments, better distribution of video, and ensuring that their customers have the best experience possible. And we have companies doing real-time scoring for predictive applications. This is a slight twist to the Streamliner architecture that I showed you previously. But similarly, what's happening is that real-time data is coming into the pipeline, typically through Kafka, and then into Streamliner, where we're able to marry that data with predictive models such as those from Spark MLlib. We also have customers who do that with predictive models from companies like SAS, the software company. And essentially what you see here is as that data is coming in, it's being scored in real time. So in the MemSQL table, data is persisted in its raw format, but as well co-located right there in the same table, in the same row with the predictive model score. This is enabling customers to go from overnight analysis to real-time analysis so they can make decisions regarding industrial equipment and manufacturing that can save them millions of dollars. So all in all, SQL is helping take the industry forward with real-time. We see the adoption of real-time across our customer base as a fast path to business agility. We remain enterprise-focused and take an operational approach to be at the heart of our customers' critical applications. MemSQL 5 is bringing breakthrough performance across database and data warehouse workloads, also including the ability to stream data live in real time, as well as a market-leading feature set where we cover multiple modes across transactions and analytics, multiple models from SQL to JSON to key value and geospatial, and integration with popular tools in the big data ecosystem like Apache Spark and Apache Kafka for building real-time data pipelines. So that's a quick summary of MemSQL 5. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to Stephen, who's going to walk us through a quick demonstration. And as always, we welcome questions on the chat line if you have them, and we'll be sure to stick around later to answer those.
Awesome. Thank you, Gary. So as Gary said, we'll walk through a quick demo of MemSQL. And as Gary mentioned, the big feature in MemSQL 5 is performance. There's a huge performance boost through our new code generation mechanism in MemSQL 5. So what I'll show you here, here you can see a SQL terminal that looks at a MemSQL database. here you can see the topology of a MemSQL database. And as you can see here, I have 12 MemSQL instances running on various machines that all have MemSQL. The first thing I'll do is run a simple speed test. So in this speed test, which is built into the MemSQL Ops product, and MemSQL Ops is the management and monitoring tool for MemSQL, you can run a simple speed test. And here we're creating a very simple table with an ID and value column. And while we're inserting as many records as we can, we're also selecting from the table with a simple group by. So as you can see, we're doing around 5 million inserts per second and scanning all those rows that have been inserted, which is about 140 right now, and scanning that all in under a second. So this is blazing fast performance for a database. And it's primarily because, number one, it's in memory. Number two, it's distributed. And of course, number three, we do code generation in a very, very fast way. So going back, you can see here the cluster. I'm now going to run a database benchmark or a workload against that cluster. And as you can see here, all the CPUs are being maximized as the workload is running inside the database. Another thing I'd like to show is our integration with Apache Spark. So as you can see here, if I want to import data or stream data into MemSQL, we leverage Apache Spark within our tool, which we call Streamliner. And deploying Apache Spark is very simple. It's actually just one click. So if you click on this button, it downloads open source Apache Spark, it unpacks it, and it installs it co-located with your MemSQL cluster. And once you do that, you can create real-time data pipelines, and I'll show you how that's done. So I can either import from an external data source, or I can stream data into MemSQL, and I'll show you both really, really quickly. If I wanted to stream data into MemSQL, I can use Streamliner and define a real-time data pipeline. And there are 3 phases to the pipeline: extract, transform, and load. So I'll say test pipeline. I'll run the pipeline every 1 second because it is a real-time pipeline. I then have a choice of where I want to extract it from. And one really powerful new feature that we introduced is the ability to use custom Python code to define where you want to extract from. So here you see a very simple example where we're just looking at numbers in the range of 0 to 100. And I could add to that and make that more complicated if I want. And then I want to do a simple transform. So what I'll do here is another very simple one where I just take those numbers and multiply it by 10. And then I want to load it into a MemSQL database. So I can say DB1 and T1. So database 1, table 1. And here I'll type show databases just to show you that database 1 and table 1 haven't been created yet. And then I'll run this very simple pipeline. So as you can see here, the pipeline will start running, and the first thing it'll do is create the database. So if I do show databases again, I see DB1 as one of the databases here. Use DB1, show tables, and you can see T1 is one of the tables there. So if I do a select count star from T1, you can see that every time I'm running this query, more records are coming in, and that's because there's a real-time data pipeline running here every second. Another thing I can do is import, and it also leverages Apache Spark underneath the hood, and I can do things like click into MySQL, specify a MySQL server, username and password, and automatically load. I can also load from HDFS, and I can also load from S3. Finally, MemSQL is blazingly fast, and you can run complicated queries, so you don't need to understand this query that's here on screen, but just know that the running of this query, including compilation, is very, very fast. It should take 7 seconds to compile the query and run the query. And if I run that same query again, it should also return, it should return even faster because the code has been generated. So just to summarize what I showed you MemSQL Ops which is the management and monitoring tool for MemSQL. We demonstrated MemSQL performance by running a speed test and also running a few complex queries. And I showed you how to load data into MemSQL using the data import functionality and Streamliner. And with that, I'll turn it back to Kevin.
Great. Thanks, Stephen. So we did have some questions come through during the webcast, but if you have any more questions, please ask them right now through the GoToWebinar question panel, and I will field them as they come in. The first one that we had during the webcast was, we get this a lot during trade shows as well, is how much data can I keep in MemSQL?
I can take that. So there's no theoretical limit for how much data you can keep in MemSQL because the system scales out. So you can either, if you want to add more data, you can simply add a new node, set it up as a MemSQL leaf, and then you can immediately store more data. Furthermore, you can also scale up by adding more capacity into each of the hosts that is running MemSQL.
Another question here, which is, looks like you have a web-based database manager available. I joined a little bit late. Is that the case?
MemSQL, one thing that wasn't mentioned in the webcast, because we were just talking about new features, but one of the very intentional decisions that we made as a company early on is to be wire protocol compatible with MySQL. So being wire protocol compatible with MySQL or MySQL allows us to use all the MySQL toolchain. So if you have MySQL Workbench or any IDE that can connect to MySQL, if you have any MySQL applications, they all work with MemSQL. So the web-based SQL terminal there is purely for demo purposes, but really any MySQL compatible terminal will work.
Okay, another question is, how easy is it to migrate a data warehouse data model from SQL Server to MemSQL?
So the answer here is it depends. We get this question quite often because many of our prospects and customers are SQL Server migrants. But it depends. So MemSQL has both a in-memory row store and a memory and disk resident column store. And we support the SQL syntax that is the same or very close to, pretty much almost equivalent to MySQL. So it's MySQL plus a bunch of other features. So we have geospatial support, we have window functions, and a few others. So migrating from SQL Server to MemSQL would be almost the same as migrating from SQL Server to MySQL. So it depends on what's the feature set you're using in SQL Server. That would be the short answer. The longer answer would be talk to us, send us an email, info@memsql, because we have these conversations all the time, and we'd be glad to help you with your use case.
Yep. Another question here, any changes on reference table storage in MemSQL 5?
So no, short answer is no. Reference tables, for those who aren't familiar with that over the phone, these are tables that are, so MemSQL is a distributed system, and by default, we actually shard data across all the nodes. With reference tables, we actually store that same table on each and every one of the hosts. So in MemSQL 5, nothing's changed with respect to reference tables. We still store them on every host and use the same storage mechanism.
Okay, I had a few people asking where they can download MemSQL, what's the price structure, all that kind of stuff. So just want to answer that real quick. So you can download MemSQL at memsql.com/download. We have two versions, which we usually cover in the presentation, but it wasn't covered in this one. So we have Enterprise Edition, which you can try for 30 days for free, and that will come with support and high availability and cross data center replication and all these enterprise production level features. But also we have a Community Edition that is completely free, and you can just download that and use it for as much time, store as much data as you like, and it's pretty much unlimited usage there. It just doesn't have some of those enterprise features. So I encourage everyone, if you haven't already, to try MemSQL at memsql.com/download, and then Community Edition is probably the best place to get started and just try it out. But if you want something more for production or support or anything like that, I would definitely encourage everyone to try Enterprise Edition as well. One last question that came through is, are you SQL on Hadoop?
Yeah, I can take that. So we see this question often as well. So we are a SQL database, right? So of course, we are not a NoSQL database, that's clear, but we are also not a SQL on Hadoop database. So we are our own SQL database. So one thing that sets us apart from many other database startups is that we took the time to build our own relational database designed specifically for real-time data processing and analytics. So this is very different than a SQL on Hadoop solution that typically doesn't have the full SQL surface area, and it's built around, or it's built on top of HDFS, which again, like adds some latency and some throughput cost because you have to go through the HDFS layer. And also it doesn't allow you to do a lot of the functionality that you can do if you have a SQL database designed from the ground up for real-time analytics. And that's what we are. So think of us more around the same way you would think about the Oracles or SQL servers, and less on how you would think about the Hives and Impalas of the world.
Cool. Well, that does it for questions. If you have any further questions, you can always email us at info@memsql.com, and product specialist will get back to you right away. We'll send the recording of this webcast out in the next 24 to 48 hours. And that's it. Thanks, everyone, for joining.